Yeah, so that's going to be coming up this weekend. The window opens on Sunday evening. Right now, this is a live picture. We can take a look. They're going through what's called the wet rehearsal. I want to say dry. It's not. It's wet because they're actually loading fuel into the rocket. They actually had a small delay today because of a leak, but that's kind of expected. That's the whole point of doing this. So they pushed it back a little bit. They're fueling it now. Some really cool things they do. It's just not about fueling the tanks. They actually kind of remove all the oxygen from the compartment so that there's no contaminants in there, and it keeps everything kind of in its original state. I thought this was fascinating. It's dangerous, but also important to do this. You can't have humans there, obviously, because there's no oxygen in there, but that's the whole point. They don't want anything to decay or get disrupted, so they actually fuel the whole capsule full. I believe it's nitrogen primarily that they put in there, and so that there's nothing that can actually get damaged while they're doing this. But it's also dangerous. That's why they have nobody near there, because you could actually, basically suffocate if you're near this. But this is a live view. They're doing it right now, the fuel test. James, I don't know. I haven't seen anything since that initial leak. It looks like everything so far seems to be going okay.
Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on it here on Live Impact News throughout the day. They did pause a little bit on this Monday afternoon. They have resumed testing. They think that it seems like they've got maybe that leak under control. But Brad, if you remember, we had something kind of similar with Artemis I that kind of caused all the timelines to slip. So we're waiting kind of on bated breath here to see how the rest of this wet dress rehearsal goes. And then tomorrow, Tuesday at noon, we're expected to hear from NASA officials on whether or not they're going to go for that Sunday launch potential.
Yeah, so a little bit different from Artemis I, which, if you remember, they had these leak issues. They had to roll the whole thing back to the assembly building and do a bunch of tests. This go around, they actually can keep it out there for up to 2 windows, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So there's a launch window this weekend, which was supposed to be longer. It got shortened by 2 days. Now it goes Sunday, Monday, possibly Tuesday. I'm not sure when the drop dead date is on this window. I think it's Monday or Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
It's during the overnight hours. So
yeah, it's some weird.
After that, we got to wait a month.
Yeah, so you got to wait a month, because you got to remember this. We're going to the moon, so this is all based on the lunar cycle. So it has to be close to that calendar. So they can leave it out there. If we don't go this weekend, they can wait another month, go through that window before they would ever have to roll it back to the assembly building, and then likely recharge things, have to go do some testing and stuff. So unlike Artemis I, they've got a little bit more leeway to leave it out there. But James and I were talking, and Alex, you could chime in on this. With this Arctic blast that we had, there's this concern, did the cold temperatures have some type of impact on the rocket? And will that cause the delays to be further? Because we didn't talk much about this, but they had Arctic air all the way down to South Florida. They had freeze warnings. I was looking at blueberry crops today. They got damaged. They even had snow in Tampa. I could not believe that was the craziest thing I ever saw.
I was going to say snow in Tampa. Yeah.
You don't see that very often, but it kind of shows you how big this cold air mass was that came in behind our storm, and it really kind of impacted the whole southeast. Iguanas falling out of trees. If I see another iguana meme, I'm going to be really I'm going to throw up. They've been everywhere. But it does go to show you, and it'll be curious to see how the weather plays a big part in this, because as we know, we had tragedy because of cold weather before with launches. Icicles formed, and that actually was one of the things that caused issues. So that's something we're going to be watching. I don't know if you're a big space person, Alex, but are you excited for Artemis II? What is your thoughts on this as we get ready for the first launch window?
I think going back to the moon is awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've been there, and so the fact that we're getting ready to do another mission, and to learn something, learn more, maybe take in some more information about the lunar's effect, the moon's effect, the lunar effects on the Earth, like our tides. And if we're talking about tides, we're talking about what Highway 12 is dealing with in the coastal Carolinas. Unfortunately, this system also occurred, as you mentioned earlier, this week with a full moon. So the moon's impact is important on the Earth, and maybe how far do they go with this dress rehearsal? I know they're not going to ignite anything, but how are they? What are they checking as they're going through this dress rehearsal?
So the goal is to completely fuel the rocket fully, like they were going to launch, and it's basically to test for leaks and make sure everything is working. And then they can defuel it, because obviously you don't want to leave some of this stuff fueled up, because it's literally a bomb sitting on the launch pad. But yeah, I'm excited too, because it's 2026, Alex, and We have HD TV now, and we have all these ways to view it, unlike we did in the 60s and 70s. So I think from that standpoint, the visual part of this and social media, that everybody gets to see this happen, is going to be really cool. We're going to be talking more about this throughout the week because that window comes up this weekend. But stick around. We're done for live weather now, but we'll have more news coming up after the break.